Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Dropkick podcast. I am your host, Daniel. Today, I'm joined with a four-time Emmy-winning TV host. He's the best interviewer in the game. Check out his very own podcast called Insight with Chris Van Vliet. He recently interviewed Eric Bischoff, so go check that out. Available on all podcast streaming platforms. So make sure to subscribe to his channel at Chris Van Vliet. And while you're at it, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. He'd really appreciate it. And he is someone who's appeared on the show before. Ladies and gentlemen, the man himself, CVV, a.k.a. Chris Van Vliet. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back.
It's good, man. It's good that things are finally working out this time compared to last time. But
well, you know, nobody needs to know what happened last time.
I hope not. But, you know, before we begin, I want to say that I think it's been 19 years exactly on this day that Mania 18 happened, and we saw Rock and Hogan. So, you know, the first question, how's it like being in the crowd for that match, considering you call it the greatest match of all time?
How old are you?
I'm 19.
This is great. So I have the poster here. It hangs on my wall. Rock Hogan. Hogan has autographed this. I have the ticket in the bottom corner. I sat in the 16th row. Yeah, for me, that's the greatest match of all time because of the fans. And it's funny saying that now in this COVID world because we've seen a lot of great matches that maybe could have been even better if there was a crowd there. I fully went into that match at WrestleMania 18 intending on cheering for The Rock. Love The Rock. I've always been a huge Rock fan. Soon as the crowd started chanting for Hogan, I was like, oh,
it hit you.
I do like Hogan. I always have liked Hogan. And everyone kind of flipped. And that's what, you know, it's what led to The Rock turning heel. But it's just so interesting that like 90% of the crowd was cheering for Hogan.
Well, I mean, based off that, did you like it when Hogan turned heel?
In that match or like just in general?
Just in general, yeah.
I think it was required, right? Like wrestling was going in a different direction. He was doing the red and yellow his entire career. Nobody ever thought that Hulk Hogan was going to turn heel. So when Hulk Hogan joined the NWO, I think everybody kind of went, what? No, it can't be Hogan. And I think he was great. I mean, look, Hogan's such an incredible performer, whether he's a babyface or a heel. But man, it's funny to me that I was at WrestleMania. So I'm as old as WrestleMania. So I was at WrestleMania 18 when I was 18. The fact that you were 0 years old when WrestleMania, well, maybe one, when WrestleMania 18 was happening is funny to me.
Yeah, it's crazy how things work out. But like in that time period, we saw like a lot of transitions. I mean, Randy Orton was just coming up, John Cena, like a bunch of these young guys. So being in that spot of, you know, Hogan up there, and then I think Austin retired the year after 2003.
Well, Austin fought Scott Hall that WrestleMania.
Yeah. Weird.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, that you could look at any WrestleMania card from like 20 years ago and be surprised by who's on there. But I mean, Trish Stratus, Chris Jericho was the champion at the time. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Arn Anderson ran in and delivered a spine buster, even though he wasn't like actively wrestling.
Yeah.
That was my favorite WrestleMania. It might not be the best WrestleMania, but that was my first ever WrestleMania in Toronto. Yeah, I love it.
I say this all the time. I think WrestleMania needs to come back to Toronto, like at least just for 1 year, man. Like,
and I think it will.
It will? Really?
I don't know if everybody realizes it all comes down to money. And every city is paying to have WrestleMania there because of the influx that it brings into the city. So obviously Toronto is just not ponying up.
I don't know why. Like we had SummerSlam and I was like, man, WrestleMania needs to come to town. But
I agree.
What can you do?
Hopefully soon.
Fingers crossed. But I did want to talk about the last time we spoke, you know, we were in that first wave of the pandemic. So like how has this wave been different for you compared to last June, I would say? Because I think that's the last time I interviewed you.
Yeah, it's funny because like last June, we were still like, oh man, like another couple months. We'll have this figured out. It was funny because when it started, we all went, or we were all told, oh, this, 2 weeks. If we stay in our homes for 2 weeks, we'll be fine. And then 2 weeks turned into, by Memorial Day or by May 2-4 in Canada, we'll be fine. All right, by 4th of July, everything will be okay. And then it just kept getting pushed back. Labor Day. And then we kind of went in the fall and we went, are we really going to spend Christmas like this?
Wow.
But it's, a lot has changed for me, and we've all had to pivot. We've all had to make changes over the course of the last year. For me, it's this, what we're doing right now. I didn't even have a Zoom account a year ago. I didn't even know what StreamYard was. I certainly did not own a great microphone like this. So it was a matter of me like figuring things out. And I love being able to do interviews in person. Obviously wasn't really a possibility. It's still not really a possibility. So it was just a matter of making those adjustments. But man, I'm fortunate. And I feel really grateful that this pandemic happened now versus happening in 2002 with WrestleMania 18. At least we have FaceTime, and we have like high-speed internet, and we have like FaceTime didn't exist. Video calling was like a science fiction future up until like 8 or 10 years ago. So the fact that we're able to do this now, it's like if there was ever a time for this to happen, I'm glad it happened now. And I like to call this the great pause. Like it's been a chance for us to pause and kind of take a look at who's important and what's important in our lives.
No, absolutely. I was having like the same conversation with a friend yesterday. I was like, I'm kind of glad it happened now, because it makes you really realize like how much you could get done and how much fortunate you are to be in this like time period. I don't want to say it's a good thing, but sometimes good things come out of the bad times. Do you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. So
and I think that you either come out of this, you either thrive or you survive. And which one? It's been a year, almost to the day. Do you thrive or do you survive? And I think that's a really important thing to look at.
No, absolutely. I think it's I don't want to say we're going to look back at this and be like, man, that was a good time. But I think there is a part of it where it's like, those were some times where it made you really think about how much you could have got done, but you still have the learning opportunity. Because I think every day is a day to grow. You know what I mean? So
I think that as stuff does start to open up again, I think that we're going to go, oh, I had a lot more time than I was giving myself credit for.
No, absolutely. But like, what are some key lessons you learned from, this pandemic, I guess?
I think the big one is what I was just mentioning there is like, what's important and who's important. I think that that's a really big thing, is like figuring out who's there. And figuring out, what's important to focus on during this time. And, what you focus on is how you're going to feel. It's been a year of uncertainty, and a lot of people have focused on all the things they don't have any control over. And I think it's more important to focus on how you want to react to the things that are happening around us. So that's been a really big thing for me, is just where you want to put your focus, and where you put that focus is what you're going to end up feeling.
No, absolutely. But like, with the new year kicking off, you also, renamed your podcast called Insight with Chris Van Vliet. So tell me why. Like, why did you want to change that and call it Insight and not the Chris Van Vliet Show?
Well, let's be honest. The show was never really about me. And my podcast was very much like just this secondary spot to put the audio from the interviews that I was putting on YouTube. And I was just thinking like, well, I'll put the audio somewhere. I got to give this show a name. Well, my YouTube channel is called Chris Van Vliet. What an original name. So I'm like, I'll just call my podcast it was either going to be the Chris Van Vliet podcast or the Chris Van Vliet Show. And I'm like, I'll call it the Chris Van Vliet Show. And as it started to grow and it started to build, I was realizing the show's really never been about me. Sure, I'm on every episode and I'm guiding the conversation, but it's always been about shining the spotlight on my guests and what they have to offer and the stories that they have and the lives that they've lived. So as I was starting to expand my interviews to not just be wrestling interviews, which is what I've been doing my entire career, interview actors and celebrities, musicians, comedians, I'm like, this show can't be the Chris Van Vliet Show, especially when you interview someone. If I interview like a musician or someone like that, their fan base has no clue who I am. So calling the show the Chris Van Vliet Show is a little bit ridiculous. So I wanted it to have a name that was all encompassing of what we were doing on the show, which is Insight. The show is all about my guests and the insights we get from them and the insightful conversations that we have.
No, I think that's such a great way to put it, because, you look at a lot of shows and stuff like the Joe Rogan podcast, and like, yes, like he is a big name out there, but I think it took so long for him to be solidified as Joe Rogan's podcast. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
So,
like one of my other favorite podcasts is Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. It's not called the Dax Shepard Show. It's Armchair Expert. Or some of my other favorite podcasts are like The School of Greatness with Lewis Howes, or On Purpose with Jay Shetty. And I think it's important to have that little like tagline before, so people go, oh, I know exactly what this show's about. It's about insight.
It's great, though. It's such a great way to, have that, support system. But I did want to talk about, when it comes to interviewing, like, I think you're the best at it, because like you're so like you're like laid back, you're chill about things. Like, how do you prepare mentally when it comes to interviewing?
I just kind of try to do as much research as I can. I'll listen to or watch other interviews. Like I just did an interview right before we jumped on here. I did an interview with Ben Askren, who's having that big boxing fight with Jake Paul. So I watched a bunch of his old interviews. I saw what some of the news was around. Like I typed his name into Google News. I saw what was like going on around his name. Basically tried to learn as much as I possibly could about him. And then I wrote a whole page here of a whole bunch of different notes that I'm like was going to go through. And then when the interview started, we just kind of went through some of these notes. So it's an idea of like we're going to have a conversation, and the conversation will probably touch on, my goodness, I wrote a lot of points here, maybe 10 or 12, 15 points. At some point we'll get to those things, but yeah, it's really just a matter of like treating it like it's a conversation instead of being scared by the idea that it's an interview, with a capital I.
No, absolutely. I think, when it comes to interviewing, like I've been doing this for like almost a year, but I can say like I've gotten a bit better compared to like last year, and it's shown, you know what I mean? Like when it comes to interviewing like RVD and stuff. So I think it's good when you have people and you just keep getting better, because I think the opportunity just grows and grows, and you just get better.
Well, you're only going to get better the more you do anything, right?
That's
like,
true.
If you started playing golf today, you're going to be a hell of a lot better in a year if you continue doing it. And I think that that's an important thing, is to just keep working at it. And especially with this, we're recording this right now. You can then go back and watch it tomorrow and then go, maybe I could have worked on this or could have phrased this differently. In 6 months, you can go back and go, man, I've gotten a lot better. I was really terrible. And then, hopefully in a year or 5, you look back at it and you go, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that was good enough to put online. I mean, I've come so far.
I used to get better every single day. But, besides moving forward, I did have 3 fan questions, and it's from Steven Spice. For those who don't know, Steven is a young professional wrestling fan who has survived 2 brain surgeries, and he looks up to Chris Van Vliet as his mentor. And I think Chris and Steven have such a great relationship. So take it away, Chris.
Love Steven. All right, let's check out this first video here.
Hey, Chris Van Vliet. I am Steven the Leprechaun. You catch me on the rainbow, and you got like hot dog. What would your 3 wishes be? You have to catch me.
He's dressed as a leprechaun. Oh my
St.
God.
Patrick's there, bro.
Wow. That beard looks so real too. Like, man, he just grew that beard overnight. So he's asking what my 3 wishes would be.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Can I ask for more wishes?
That's fair.
That's usually the rule, like in Aladdin. Like you can wish for anything, but you can't ask for more wishes. Okay. Number 1, I'm going to wish that COVID, if we could just snap our fingers, that COVID goes away. Like
that's fair.
Now, like that WrestleMania could have full capacity, that Impact Wrestling can have fans there again, that all of these shows can tour again, that we can go to a concert, that we can go to a sporting event. Yeah. So number 1, and tied into number 1, because, we're all going to be healthy as a result of that. Yeah. So snap my fingers, COVID goes away. Boom. That's it. I would like to, number 2, be able to eat as much pizza as I could possibly eat without having to worry about calories or dairy or anything like that. I want to eat pizza every single meal. I want to eat it for breakfast, lunch, dinner. I want to create a new meal between lunch and dinner. I'm going to call that dinner, and I'm going to eat pizza all the time. So wish number 2 is to eat endless amounts of pizza with no repercussions.
Damn.
Wish number 3.
It's hard.
It's so hard. I think wish number 3 would be, man, this is difficult. I mean, I've already used 2 great wishes here. I'm going to make wish number 3 that everybody in the world can live up to their full potential. Because I think there's so many people that sell themselves short, myself included. We all do it. But I want everybody to be able to live up to their full potential, whatever that is, your full potential of whatever that is, whatever it means to be you. So there we go. 1, 2, 3. 3 wishes right there.
Boom. And the second question, I think you have it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get to the second question here.
Happy St. Patty's Day, Chris Van Vliet. Oh no, I'm turning into a human again. Oh God, I'm forced into a human. What? Who would you want to star you in a movie?
He's turning back into a human. Oh,
It's crazy.
who would I want to play me in a movie? Another great question. Double S. Well, I just had Freddie Prinze Jr. on the show recently. And when I was growing up, people would tell me all the time that I looked kind of like him.
I see it actually.
Which is a huge, incredible compliment that I would look like Freddie Prinze Jr. Hold on, my camera's out of focus. There we go.
There we go.
I mean, what a huge compliment that I would look like a heartthrob Freddie Prinze Jr. When I told him this, he was like, dude, when the video started, I'm like, this is what you have to look forward to in 20 years. So Freddie Prinze Jr. would play me in a movie. And my goodness, that would be, yeah, that'd be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, let's look at this last one here.
That was a big joke. What's up, Chris? Miss me? We never said the we ask kid. I said kid. But
It's like out of breath.
pineapple on pizza? Because he said pineapple. I gotta get your opinion. Because you two were the best interviews I've ever done. Come on, I gotta get your opinion.
Is he saying does pineapple belong on pizza?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, I need to watch this again because there's no way that someone who loves pizza as much as Steven loves pizza would ever be asking about an abomination like pineapple. So let me just make sure here.
Wow. You don't think it belongs on pizza? Really?
Hell no.
Wow. I don't think it's that bad.
Okay, let's see. Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah.
Does pineapple belong on pizza? Look, you can put anything you want on pizza. But just know that if you're putting pineapple on pizza, I don't really know if it's pizza anymore. It's some sort of an abomination. So, but you're free to do whatever you want. Free to put any toppings you want on there. But no. That's like people that ask, like, is a hot dog a sandwich? No, a hot dog is not a sandwich. What a silly question that is.
That's fair. Yeah. I don't know. I personally, I think, like, I don't mind it, but, like, you know. I
just think it's weird. Like, pizza's very savory, right? Pizza's salty. Pizza's sometimes a little bit spicy. Mm-hmm. And pineapple, number one, is like sweet, which is a little strange. But it's also like mushy. Like I don't know. I don't like it.
I mean,
I'm not a completely, I would have a slight, like if you ordered pizza and you were like, and I opened up the box and there was pineapple on there, I'd be like, thanks so much for ordering this. And then I would take the slice and be like, it's good. Yeah.
I think LA has pretty good pizza places down there, I've heard.
Ish. So, I mean,
really?
I think the thing about living in any big city, you've got lots of options, but the best pizza in America, best pizza in North America is in New York.
Oh,
Like New York style pizza is the best. In fact, New York style pizza is so good that all I do here is look for New York style pizza to eat.
I mean, I don't blame you. I thought you were gonna say Chicago, but yeah, New York is really good.
I don't like Chicago pizza. I'm so sorry, Chicago people. You like deep dish?
I don't mind it. Again, like it's not that.
Have you been to Chicago and had actual Chicago deep dish?
No, I haven't been to Chicago.
The deep dish that we would have back home in Canada is like, you know, the dish is like this deep compared to like, you know, this deep.
Okay,
deep dish pizza in Chicago, like true Chicago style pizza, it's like this. It's like a casserole. Seriously, you need to eat it with like a knife and a fork. Like it's not pizza. And that's okay. It's its own style. But the best pizza is New York. I'm so sorry to all the Chicago people that are watching. Detroit style pizza is up there too. That's a very good pizza.
It's really good. But no, moving forward, I did want to talk about, you know, before you started doing interviews, what a great transition. Before you started doing interviews and all of this work for broadcasting, what is one thing you wish you had known before, I guess, starting your journey?
I think I wish I had known that we've got lots of time. And I think it's really easy when you're 19 or when you're 20, or like when I was, you know, about to graduate from university, I felt like it needed to happen right now. And the reality is you've got all of your 20s to kind of figure things out, kind of point yourself in the direction of where you want to go. Then you've got your 30s to also do that. You've got your whole life to do that. But I think that there's no rush. And I think that's a big thing I wish I had gone back and told myself is like, hey, you're doing okay. Like you're doing okay. And like appreciate what's going on now and then know that it's just going to keep getting better.
Oh, that's all true, because I think, like I mentioned, like every day is, you know, a new opportunity to learn and just get better. But also just, I think when you're open to that mindset of being like, hey, like it's okay if I mess up, because, you know, you're not going to really notice it until you go back and, you know, really nitpick everything. Then it's like, then it hits you. You know what I mean?
I don't want to mess up. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying that like, it's okay to be at this level now, knowing that in a year you'll be a little bit better. And then a year after that, you'll be a little bit better, and knowing that you'll keep progressing along the way.
No, absolutely. But like when it comes to like networking and interviewing people, you know, you're a hustler in your own game. And I give you props for that, because it takes a lot to like just keep killing it like on a consistent basis. Like you just finished an interview before this. And like personally, I can't do that because I can only do so much like at a mental state. So it takes a lot. But like what is the furthest distance you have to travel for making an interview happen?
Well, look, you could do it. You could absolutely do it. And I think that the most important thing to remember, the two most important words in the English language are I am, because anything that comes after that is exactly what you're telling yourself. So you are definitely capable of doing it. It's just a matter of, are you going to fill your plate with all that stuff? The furthest I have traveled, I didn't travel just to do this interview, but I was in London and I connected with Simon Miller, who's a great friend and an incredible YouTuber. And I said, hey, I'm here. You live here. Let's make this happen. And he took the tube. That's what they call the subway in London, over to my hotel. And we did the interview there. So that's definitely the furthest distance I went to do any of my YouTube interviews. I mean, that's the other side of the world. The furthest I've driven would be, I drove to Jacksonville and back in a day when I was living in Miami. And that's 5.5 hours each way to do that interview with Tony Khan right before Double or Nothing. So that's the furthest I've traveled in one day. And that was basically drove up, did the interview with him at TIAA Bank Field where the Jaguars play, did the interview, got in my car, turned right back around, went home.
No, that's great. But I think that, again, that takes a lot, because you're just driving there for an interview and possibly for, you know, some pizza, who knows. But, you know, it takes a lot to just make these things happen. And it shows, like, it truly shows, like, the hard work does pay off at the end if you're,
I think for me, it's like if someone's willing to give me that opportunity, if someone like Tony Khan's willing to go, yeah, I'll give you, I think he gave me an hour or 45 minutes. It would be silly for me to go, well, I appreciate that, but I don't live close enough to you. So sorry, not doing it. Like Of course, I did everything in my power to make that happen. I took a day off of work, drive up there and do it. So, yeah, I think that everybody should make those opportunities because we make time for the things that are important to us.
No, absolutely. I think, even if you're not ready, just be ready until the opportunity comes. Because again, you got to adapt and be quick on your feet. You got to be ready for the unknown, I guess.
You're never going to be completely ready. All you can do is just prepare yourself the best that you possibly can. And then just dive in and figure it out as you go.
No, absolutely. But you've been doing this for 10 years. But I did want to ask, is there a possibility that we might see you work for AEW again and, for WWE?
I don't know. Who knows? I'd be open to the idea, but I'm in a pretty great spot right now where I can talk to people from every different organization. I can do an interview with someone from AEW. I can do an interview with a friend from WWE, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, Ring of Honor. It's great. So, I mean, I've been a wrestling fan my entire life. If one of those organizations wants to reach out to me and it makes sense, sure. But wrestling is just one of the many, many things that I work on. I'm also a TV host. I've also worked as an entertainment reporter for most of my career. I do voiceover work. I have this podcast. I do some acting. I do speaking. Wrestling is just one of the many, many things I do. So I definitely don't know if I'd want to be tied down doing something in wrestling all the time if it were to take away from all the things that I'm doing.
No, absolutely. Because there's only so much you can do, once you're under a company and, you can only limit yourself to so much. So
right. And I don't know, things are pretty good right now.
No, absolutely. But with reaching success in any sort of capacity, there's always that negative feedback. How do you handle that mentally?
I think I'm just comfortable knowing who I am and what I bring to the table. And if someone says something that's not nice or someone says something that's criticizing, sometimes I'll look at it and go, that person has a pretty good point. They're right. I probably could have done this better or could have said this better. But for the most part, I'm looking at that and going, that person doesn't know me. So, and I don't care. It's not going to change or affect the way that I do what I do. I think that in wrestling and in life, people either like you or they don't like you. They might not even have a reason why they don't like you. They might not have a reason why they do like you. But there's nothing I can really say or do that's going to convince somebody that doesn't like me to like me. If people don't like my interviews, they don't have to watch them. They don't have to listen to them. And I'm really okay with that.
Yeah. I think everyone likes to just kind of dip their toes and just kind of I don't know. I think making fun of, not even just being that typical mark is kind of their thing. You know what I mean? So I think being in that outside bubble and just keep doing what you got to do to just grow, then it's doing what you got to do and I guess.
I'm just going to keep doing my own thing, whether people like it or not. I mean, I'm just going to keep pressing on.
No, absolutely. But what were some challenges you faced in your early days of interviewing?
I think the biggest challenge any interviewer has is trying to figure out how it doesn't sound like an interview.
Yeah,
I think that's a tough thing to do. So, when I was working for MTV2 Canada, our whole thing was appreciating and understanding that the person you're interviewing has done a lot of interviews. And maybe that day they've done 10, 20, 30, 50 interviews. So our big thing was trying to find a different angle, trying to ask them a question in a different way, trying to get a soundbite out of them that maybe they've never said before. That was a tough thing because the last thing I wanted to do was get this soundbite out of an actor or a musician or a comedian and then turn on the TV that night and hear them saying almost the exact same thing to somebody else.
Yeah.
So that was a big hurdle to kind of get over is how can I ask the same question, but phrase it in a different way that makes the answer a little bit more fun. So that was, I think, a really big thing for me. And I think, that sounds so obvious and it sounds so simple, but listening was a really tough thing because while an interview is a conversation, it's a strange conversation. It's a one-sided conversation where you're trying to get the best out of the person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
So I think for me, listening was a big thing, and not jumping ahead in my mind mentally to what the next question was. Just being present in that moment, listening. And if they said something that I thought could bounce off into a different question, I would allow it to, do that. And that took a long time to be able to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. No, I think every interviewer's journey is different, but I think yours is so, different as well, because you actually wanted to be a wrestler. You know what I mean? You wanted to be someone that was in the ring consistently. And so tell me about how that came together. How did your wrestling journey end,
Well, when I became like a huge wrestling fan in the Attitude Era, I was also on the high school wrestling team at the time. I was on a backyard wrestling federation. Chris Sharp was my backyard wrestling name.
Yeah.
So I said to one of my buddies in the backyard wrestling federation, I said, when we're old enough and we own cars or have cars, we're going to go to wrestling school together. We made a pact. So that was where it kind of started for me. And I did. I went to wrestling school while I was going to college, and I did it in the summer between my second and third year, and then decided all right, when school started back up that fall, I kind of went, okay, I got to make a decision. I'm not going to half-ass this. I'm going to go all the way in. So is it school or is it wrestling school? And I had to make this decision. And I thought, wrestling will always kind of be there, but I wanted to make sure I got my degree, which I did. The interesting thing about this is by no means am I a fully trained wrestler. I know how to bump. I know how to lock up. I know how to do a few different things, run the ropes, but by no means am I a fully trained wrestler. The interesting thing here, though, is I kind of, in a very small way, can have an appreciation for what these people do. I know what a bump feels like. I certainly know what a chop feels like.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is when we watch, baseball, maybe you never played baseball, but you've at least thrown a baseball. You know what it feels like to throw and catch a baseball. Maybe you never played basketball, but we've all shot hoops before. The interesting thing is how many fans are watching wrestling that actually don't know what it feels like, to be in a wrestling ring. And I feel like even if I just have this 1% experience with it being in the ring, I think it really helps inform those interviews that I do.
No, that's fair. Yeah. Because I think you learn a totally different perspective. I think one interview that really stands out is the Shamrock one, because I think you asked him to put you in that ankle lock, and he really, he really had it in there, and it's totally,
and I'm also not afraid to create those moments. How cool is it that we can sit here right now and I can say, Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man, put me in the ankle lock. Also, I have a photo with Kurt Angle put me in the ankle lock many, many years ago. So yeah, I just want to I want to be able to selfishly kind of have those moments for myself.
No, I don't blame you. Yeah, it's totally cool, doing the interview game and also being, 50% trained, I guess you can say. But it's totally different for everyone.
I don't think I'm 50% trained. I'm 12% trained, maybe.
Yeah, yes. But I do want to talk about what was your biggest failure early on, and what did you learn from that?
I think that I auditioned for a lot of different shows and didn't get them. And I wouldn't consider it a failure, but my career was going fairly well. I was 2.5 years in, spent my first year and a half as a news reporter at Chex TV in Peterborough, Ontario, doing it all. I learned it all: writing, shooting, editing, reporting, everything. And then from there, I ended up getting a pretty big break to move to Vancouver and host a show called 969 on Razor, which became MTV2 Canada. And things were going really well. I was hosting a national show, interviewing celebrities and musicians all the time. Our show got canceled after a year. And it was in that year, I was unemployed for 7 months after basically living my dream job before that. And it was tough because I was going for all these other auditions, and it would be between me and one other person, me and 2 other people, and I wouldn't get it. And I don't know if that's a failure, really, but it was the fact that I was so close to not continuing to do what I wanted to do, which was be on TV for a living. And I learned a lot in that time about just moving forward. And I always say vague goals get vague results, but it was really important for me to set these goals and figure out what am I going to do next? I feel like I was put on this earth to be a television host. I mean, I've certainly been telling myself that. So if that's been taken away now, what do I do? So that was a really big time where I like figured out every step along the way. And it sucked to not have a job for 7 months. And your job when you don't have a job becomes to find a job. So I spent every day like applying for different things and try to just better my craft so that when I did find that next opportunity, I was going to be the absolute best at it.
No, absolutely. I think, you only bounce back and just keep getting better. Like your only setback is your biggest, opportunity to just grow and learn and get better. And I think vague goals and vague results, that's the thing. Like that's what it's, that's what it's all about. Like you really learn in those dark times that like you can grow as a person. And also like, I think things happen for a reason. I think it was in that Rock interview where he talks to you about just things happen for a reason. Like if The Rock was in the NFL, he wouldn't be this mega star as he is right now. Like we can all agree on that. But I think for him to fail and not achieve that dream of his at that time, like that was kind of a good thing because it led him to bigger, better things.
Think about it. The Rock got cut from the CFL. Mm-hmm. Like The Rock's goal, The Rock's dream in life was to play in the NFL. Rock got cut from the CFL. Mm-hmm. And, as we know, being Canadians, no offense to the CFL, but it's no NFL, right? Mm-hmm. So to get cut from the CFL, and Rock told me in that interview that sometimes things in life don't happen. And when they don't, they can be the best things to never happen. And it's so true. I actually think that show getting canceled, this was 2007, if we take it all the way back, that show getting canceled was probably one of the best things to happen to me because who knows? If 969 had stayed on the air for another 10 years, who knows? I probably wouldn't have moved to the U.S., wouldn't have met some of the great friends that I've had, wouldn't have been able to, have some of the great networking opportunities that I've had. So I don't live with any sort of regrets at all in any aspect of my life because everything that happened along the way has led to me sitting here right now doing this with you.
No, absolutely. I think everything does happen for a reason. But like I also wanted to talk about moving forward to the present day. You have some really cool like videos of you with these drone shots. So tell me about that. Like how did that come together? Because I've seen them and I'm like, I want to ask him about this.
One of my very best friends, his name is Zeus. He is such a talented filmmaker and he makes incredible videos. So I was looking for someone to shoot a drone video because you might have seen the video on my YouTube channel. I've gone on some pretty fun adventures, bungee jumping, skydiving, swimming with alligators, driving a tank, all that like really fun stuff.
Crazy stuff, yeah.
And I said, I want one final video here of me like standing on top of a mountain, like the drone's gonna like pull away. Mm-hmm. So we had a mutual friend that connected us together, and now Zeus has become one of my closest friends. So it's awesome when you're with someone who's just like driven by creativity. And I'm very much that type of person. I know you're very much that type of person as well, but so is he. So like, he's the type of guy, like we went skiing a few weeks ago and yes, there is skiing in California. It's crazy. We went to Big Bear to go skiing and he just brought all of his equipment. And it's just like, like you're so passionate about this that here we are on a fun trip and you brought a drone and you brought 3 cameras and 4 GoPros. So he's he's the type of guy that I know that if I need a cool shot, I could literally just call him up and go, hey man, here's what I'm thinking.
No, it's cool though. Cause I don't think we ever saw that like side of you in terms of like that creative side. Cause you were just doing interviews, but now you're, breaking off and doing this other cool stuff. So I think it's pretty cool.
Well, and I get that people come to my YouTube channel to see my interviews. I'm completely aware of that. And it doesn't mean I'm going to I'm already going bungee jumping. I had a trip planned. They got delayed and then canceled, swimming with sharks. I was going to swim with great white sharks at the end of last year, which I'm going to be doing at the end of this year. But I'm already doing this stuff anyway, and I already love this stuff, and it drives me. Why not bring a camera? And why not share that experience on YouTube? And even if, one person can watch that video and go, I didn't even know that was possible. Or be able to inspire them.
No, absolutely. I think that's everyone's goal. But I did want to talk about what are some upcoming projects that you're working on.
Well, I'm going to go as soon as we're done here. I'm going to call up Zeus and shoot another badass video. So you can look for that on my social media, but I'm plugging away at the podcast. I'm really passionate about growing my podcast and just talking to interesting people. Like, again, it's called Insight because I want to selfishly take as much insight as I can from these high performing guests. So I've got some really interesting interviews lined up. Just released the Eric Bischoff interview. Jeff Timmons, the founding member of 98 Degrees, is on the show, which was such an interesting interview. That, man, you want to talk about goal setting and you want to talk about chasing after a dream. I was so inspired after that interview. So look for that. And I think if things go well, I think you'll be seeing me on TV before the end of the year.
No way.
You'll be seeing me on a different show.
Oh, okay. That's right.
I'm not going to say where. I'm not going to say what channel, but I think that if things go well, knock on wood, we'll see that.
No, I'm looking forward to it, man. But I want to thank you once again for coming on the show. Where can everybody find you on social media?
I'm at Chris Van Vliet, VanVliet, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. My podcast is Insight with Chris Van Vliet. And thank you for making this happen. I appreciate you having me back on. And congratulations on your internet. It's much more stable.
It's so much better, man. So much better.
But right next to each other.
Absolutely. But go check out Insight with Chris Van Vliet, available on all podcast streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, it's all there. Check out Chris on YouTube at Chris Van Vliet. Hit that bell so you don't miss any interviews. And of course, subscribe to the Dropkick podcast on all podcast streaming platforms and YouTube at Dropkick Podcast. But again, thank you so much, Chris. And I hope to see you guys in the next interview.
Thank you.